And while doing so, share with you my top 10 tricks and tips and techniques to just get a nice and good vocal sound.
And maybe I miss you by my side.
Hey guys, welcome to the studio. Today is a very special day. It's Monday. I took care of all of the business stuff already yesterday, so I can spend the entire day just sitting here making music. And as you know from last week, I started working on one of the songs that I recorded with Frankie, I think a month ago. She's really an amazing singer-songwriter, but of course, as a producer, you have to make sure that the talent sounds even better. So today I will concentrate fully on the vocal sound and share with you my top 10 tricks to actually make vocals sound good. Little techniques, little tricks, things that I do, things you could do if you don't have like the perfect vocal recording and still want to kind of fake it to sound good. There are a lot of techniques, but let's just jump right into it. First up, let's start with probably maybe the most obvious, but something a lot of people forget, and that is actually your talent. It's your source, it's the source of the vocal. If the person doesn't perform perfect, if it's not good, there is not a whole lot you can do in the post-production. Yes, you can pitch correct it, which is really easy with Logic. You can also correct the timing and quantize it, no problem. But there are some things you can change in the post-production process. One of them is the P's, B's, T's, all of these. They end up in your mic if you don't have a pop filter. So definitely make sure to record with a pop filter. Make sure to adjust the mic to the right height so that the singer can sing into it, into the front of the mic. Be careful with that. The mic usually has the logo at the front, so make sure it's facing the singer-songwriter. Also, the pattern should be adjusted accordingly, usually cardioid. If you do omnidirectional, it will also pick up sound from the back that you just don't want to have in the recording. Also, make sure it's mounted in a way where it's absorbing shocks from the floor. If the singer-songwriter taps along with their feet, it ends up in the mic. So make sure to have a clean recording. Make sure you get the best performance out of the singer and songwriter. Things like pronunciation, feeling, you can't change them. It's impossible. So make sure you get those right. Timing and pitch is not that important. It's nice if it's already done correctly while singing, so you have less work and it sounds way more natural, but you can fix them and make it work. The mic selection isn't that important. You shouldn't use a mic like this. This is like a measurement microphone. Voices do not really sound that good. It's really just meant to measure your room response and to fix like frequencies, but I already covered that in another video. I think any mic that is like 150 and plus is decent enough to record your first song. So don't worry about the mic and never ever think that the sound quality is bad because of the mic. Probably more your room, the reverb in it. So also make sure not only to have a good talent, also make sure to have a nice room to record in to actually make sure to get the best out of it. Because the recording, the file at the end, it's all burned in. You can't change it. I know there are plugins that get rid of reverb and also plugins that get rid of noise, but it always sounds weird and strange. There's always something to the voice that just destroys it a little bit. Using a noise gate is totally fine because it's only removing the parts where no one is singing, where the volume is below a certain threshold, and make sure it's clean. So that's totally cool. But I think for electronic dance music, the noise floor isn't that important. The production is anyway so full that you usually can't hear it. But now to the editing part. As you can see, this is the entire project at the moment. It's not like finished. It's not even half finished. We got all of those blue bits. Those are the vocal takes. As you can see, I've comped them. You can open this up. This is really nice in Logic. It just loops forever, records take 1 to 8 in this case. And then you can, for example, select the first words out of take 7 and maybe the middle section out of take 5. And then the last bit out of take 4. This is extremely handy, but here in this case, Frankie actually made every take so good that you can just use it in full. I think here the last one was just the best from the feeling. Her pitch singing was on point in every single take, so we just took the last one because it was like the most spot on. And this part is the verse, so there's just this one line. I think we doubled it, or are those harmonies? Yeah, so we recorded the main vocal for the verse.
We came to get lost in a feeling.
And on top of that, we recorded harmonies that you actually don't need for the first verse. The first verse is usually the simplest.
We came to get lost in a feeling.
But just in case we needed later on in the production to thicken up certain words, to give them like a little bit more emphasis, we just recorded this. Because also once your talent is gone, re-recording is really annoying. So try to catch as much as you can, even if there are things you don't need. I also always record 2 or 3 ad-lib takes at the end over the entirety of the song, just to have like fill words to put in between, or build effects out of them, or maybe chop them up and make a melody out of it. There are a lot of things you just figure out while producing that you actually need. So just record as much as you can. And then let's actually switch to the main chorus part, because it's the most complex, the most interesting. That's where most of the stuff is going on. As you can see, we got here a main vocal, a main double. So let me actually explain that. So the main vocal sits in the middle. You keep it usually mono, put a reverb on top, compression, we will get to it later in the video, and then you have double takes. So basically the same again. A good singer knows, or you have to point it out, in the doubles, the P's, B's, T's, you don't need them that much. And also the endings of the words, you can like let them fade a little. Also like the K sound, like it doesn't need to be that harsh. So it's a softer version of the main vocal. And you then pen one of them left, one of them right, and this way you're able to thicken up the vocal. So let me play really quick, just the main vocal.
And I'll be in this moment. Makes me feel like whoa.
And then with the doubles left and right.
And I'll be in this moment. Makes me feel like whoa.
Then also something that always makes sense to try and record is like the octave below, to just be able to add a little bit of bass and maybe crunchiness to the vocal if it's necessary. Usually if I do like distortion on the vocals, it's usually on the lower octave.
And I'll be in this moment.
And then usually the most beautiful but also the hardest for the singer to pull off are harmonies in between. Just to, yeah, thicken it up, make it interesting, make it sound epic. It's what makes the most fun. I just love it. If you add the harmony, it just shines.
And I'll be in this moment. Makes me feel like whoa.
And so far the vocals sound already good. Basically because she did an amazing job. There's just reverb on it at the moment. You should add reverb to almost every, actually to every single vocal take. The amount of reverb can vary. I think the main vocal should also have the main reverb. Make sure to EQ the reverb. Make sure to EQ the vocal. Usually when it comes to EQing vocals, getting rid of the low end, definitely helpful to get rid of the mic rumble, and the human voice doesn't do anything down there. And then also what generally helps us like boosting a little bit the top end just to make it shine, cut through the mix. And everything in between is very individual. It really depends if it's a female, a male, their voice, the sound of the voice, the production. If it's an acoustic track, don't do too much to it. If it's like a full production, you can go crazy with effects and like make it sound very spacious, put delay on top, and just play around with it. Maybe even artificially putting a lower octave by just pitching it down by 12 semitones. All of this can add up and make a good vocal sound. Next up, really important, compression, especially important on things that you actually record yourself, because they're not perfect. If you use a synthesizer within the computer, the levels are like the same. You hit the keyboard and it will sound the same loudness every single time you hit it. But with the human voice, it varies. It really depends even on what word the singer is singing. It depends on how much they emphasize it. Some of them are really good and they know it from their live performances to just get away from the mic when they're singing louder. But usually in a recording studio, it's better to just like leave the gain a little bit lower and have more headroom and make sure they can concentrate on just singing perfect, or not also having to move while singing, and the rest is then done with the compressor. It's basically making the louder parts. If someone, for example, speaks and starts speaking really quiet, you can push down the loud parts so that the loud parts match the quiet parts, and then again with the output gain, make everything louder. So it's basically squashing down the waveform Compression is extremely simple. I don't know why people make such a fuss about it. Of course, yes, there are some compressors that add a vintage tone to it, but basically you just want to make the vocals sound more like constant, the same loudness. It would be weird in a pop song if some words would be quieter than others. So just compress it. Vocals, you can compress them quite hard. Minus 10 dB, minus 20, totally common. Business stuff. Moin. Good. Yo, ciao. Okay, apparently my entire plan for today is now crushed because important business things. As you might know, I'm DJing at that World Club Music Dome thing with like Marshmello, Dimitri Vegas, Like Mike, Black Eyed Peas, Robin Schulz, and whatnot. And one of the big bosses is coming over. He wants to check out my new studio. So yeah, let's finish this tutorial tips and tricks thing really quick. I'm sorry. We got EQing covered, we got compression covered, reverb. Again, EQ the reverb. Most reverbs have like a setting to cut the top and the low frequencies. Here the Valhalla Vintage Reverb has like the high cut, low cut. And as you can see, the low cut is enabled. It's at 450, just making sure you don't add more rumble and unnecessary low frequencies. Usually the cleaner your low frequencies, the cleaner your low end, the better and easier it will be to mix later on. So let's maybe finish this off with like the sneaky technique, because a lot of you might not have that many vocals, don't have the possibility to record in a vocal booth, don't have a singer and songwriter that does an amazing job. If you, for example, if you're doing a remix contest and there's just like one vocal take to just make it sound epic, better, and kind of fake the doubling, there's one thing you can do, and that is actually adding a chorus to the vocal. So let's take our plain and simple main vocal, and I got it here set to bus number 14. I also sometimes use it on leads. So let me just like exaggerate completely so you can hear what it's actually doing.
And I be in this moment, makes me feel like whoa.
It's like really spreading the vocal, make it sound wide, make it sound epic, a little bit like a pad. I also love to use this technique on strings and pad sounds. And this way you can kind of fake the doubling. Same with the harmonies. You can try to pitch it up and down in the computer. It will sound really awkward, but if you just mix it in slightly, just a tiny bit, or add a ton of auto-tune, it can even be used as an effect that you do on purpose and just make the vocal sound richer. This is really important because it needs to compete with all of those synthesizers, the bass drum, the kick. It just needs to sound polished and modern to go into such production. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. I will cut it here. I don't know if I got to 10 tips. Probably yes. It depends on what you count as a tip. I hope I helped you. I hope you now know what to work with, what to do with vocals. Really, the recording is the most important. Get as many takes as you can. And if you want to be fancy, you can put all of your vocals on one bus and then maybe compress it again, but then slightly, and use a compressor that actually adds a little bit of warmth and character and that vintage kind of sound. And if you have any questions left, just leave it down below in the comments. I will try and answer them, and we will just continue then probably tomorrow with the song. Next up is I don't know. You will find out tomorrow, but definitely continuing with the song. Maybe the chord sounds, the main synthesizer sounds, the arrangement. There's still plenty of stuff that needs to be finished to make this a full production. But anyways, thanks a lot for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see us tomorrow back again here in the studio for another vlog. I now really have to take care of this business stuff. This is like really important because I just love DJing, and DJing like it's such a huge place with so cool, talented A-list DJs. Is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
See you by my side, up with